Discover the incredible heart of the billionaire. No one knew. One woman's touching change after one. Sarah stared at the night sky, her heart pounding with the rhythm of her dreams. Maplewood lay still beneath the vast canopy of stars, but she saw something more, a glimmer of hope. As a single mother, struggling to wrap the pieces of life together, each shining star felt like a promise for her children, 12-year-old Noah and 8-year-old Lily. She wanted so much more for them than the worn-out Main Street lined with shuttered businesses. But exhaustion tugged at her, pulling her closer to despair. Then came the news, racing through their small town like wildfire. Jack Rivers, a billionaire with a past shadowing his fortune, was moving his charity foundation headquarters to Maplewood. Reactions rippled through the community, some hopeful, many skeptical, like Sarah. She didn't believe some wealthy recluse could understand her fight, the daily grind of waiting tables at the local diner and scrubbing floors at night. When Noah came home with tears streaming down his face, his handmade paper airplane crumpled in his fist, her heart shattered into fragments. Kids at school had taunted him, laughed at his family's lack of money. "That's not who we are, Mom." He choked, eyes wide with hurt. Sarah knelt beside him, feeling her own eyes welling up. How could anyone be so cruel? The weight of his pain pierced through the armor she'd built. She wanted to shield her children from a world that judged so harshly, but now she wasn't sure she could. Weeks rolled on as Jack's foundation began to sponsor revitalization projects at the local school. Tension simmered, but the town was split. Could they really accept someone who seemed out of touch with their struggles? Yet Sarah was drawn to the charity project, feeling something deeper calling her to participate. Maybe it was the flicker of her ambition clashing with the protective instincts of a mother. Then, during a community meeting meant to discuss the school project, something unexpected happened. Sarah heard Jack recount stories of his own childhood, one of poverty, struggle, and heartbreak, of growing up in a decaying neighborhood that mirrored Maplewood. The crowd fell silent, a shared gasp rippling through them. Could it be? The ambitious billionaire had faced the same shadows they did. The moment resonated, feelings shifting in Sarah's heart. Was it possible for someone to rise with scars and still care? Hope, tangled with doubt, coaxed her into action. But just as the sentiment began to grow, an economic crisis loomed, threatening the very projects meant to revive their community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah stood at the front of the town hall, her heart raced. She faced a room filled with uncertainty, each person wrestling with their fears and hopes. Could they really trust someone like Jack? Would they reach for redemption together? The air was thick with anticipation, voices whispering, hearts pounding. Would the community unite in their darkest hour, or would they let resentment keep them apart? In that charged moment, as the voices rose and the atmosphere crackled, Sarah's thoughts were held captive by the power of choice. What lay ahead, with a world of uncertainty before them, hung in the air, a fragile thread stretching between hope and despair. Sarah cleared her throat, the sound echoing in the crowded hall. "I know many of you are skeptical," she began, her voice trembling but firm, "and I get it. Trust isn't easy, especially when we've been let down time and again." As her words tumbled out, she felt the weight of countless eyes bearing down on her. But there was a flicker of something. Perhaps an understanding. She could see it in the small nods and whispered affirmations drifting through the crowd. The same people who once looked at Jack Rivers with uncertainty and distrust now appeared to be dipping their toes into a pool of possibility. "I grew up in a place like this," Sarah continued, channeling her resolve. "I know what it feels like to lose hope, to want nothing more than to shield your children from pain. But if we turn away now, we're turning our backs on a chance to rebuild." She felt a surge of courage rising within her. Jack may have billions, but he is still human. He knows what it means to fight. With each passing moment, she could sense their hesitations melting away, transforming into cautious curiosity. A murmur swept through the room, and Sarah took a breath, letting the energy fuel her. "Let us not make assumptions about him without giving him a chance," she said, striking an unintentional chord. "What if, instead of fear, we lean into the hope? What we really need is to come together. If we give Jack a shot, maybe we'll find he is not the enemy. Maybe he is exactly what we need." Before she could finish, a voice cut through the murmuring. "He is just another rich guy looking to make himself feel good, using our town as a charity case." It was Tom, a long-time resident. Gasps rose from the crowd, tension escalating. "Tom, it's easy to think that way," Sarah replied, her heart racing as she met his fiery gaze. "But what if he can be the first spark? The one who turns our struggles into opportunities? I don't know about you, but I'm tired of living in the shadows. We all deserve to dream big again." The room erupted into a flurry of opinions. Some shouted in support of Sarah's plea, while others remained stubbornly loyal to their skepticism. It felt like a raging storm, the kind that could either tear them apart or reshape their community entirely. Jack sat at the back of the hall, a silent observer. She could see the fleeting emotions wash over his face: hope, anxiety, determination. Something about his presence stirred something deep within her. Just as she was ready to invite him to speak, someone else took the stand. "Please don't let this be chaos." "Sarah," Jack interrupted, rising to his feet. His calm tone cut through the clamor. "I just want to say that I'm here because of you. Because of everyone in this room." She felt a thrill sweep through her, almost like a jolt of electricity. "I've spent years running from my past, but I came here hoping to help. To make a difference. Not because I'm a billionaire, but because I want to be a part of something real." As he spoke, Sarah saw something shift in the air. The flickers of doubt began to wane as people leaned in. But uncertainty still loomed. "Let us work together," Jack continued, determination tightening his jaw. "Let us bring our ideas to the table, brainstorm what Maplewood really needs. There's a way out of this crisis, and I want to help you find it." The room fell silent, the heavy air thick with emotion. Could they really come together? As the echoes of Jack's words settled in, Sarah closed her eyes for a brief moment. What if they managed to bridge the gap? What if fear was replaced by collaboration? Her heart pounded furiously as she stepped forward, ready to push for a chance that both intimidated and excited her, but just then, a loud bang echoed outside, breaking their moment. A protester with a sign barged into the meeting, disrupting the fragile atmosphere. "We don't want your charity." The crowd gasped again, the harmony they had reached disintegrating in a heartbeat. Sarah's heart raced. Would this derail everything? Could their fragile hope withstand this escalating conflict? The night felt like it was just beginning, and uncertainty loomed over them all like dark clouds. Would they rise together or lose this moment to division? The protester stood in front of the crowd, his sign waving like a flag of war. "We don't want your charity." He shouted again, louder this time. The energy shifted, darkness creeping back into the room like a shadow ready to swallow their fragile hope. Sarah's hands clenched into fists at her sides. This was how it was supposed to go. She took a deep breath, willing herself to remain calm amid the storm. She could sense Jack's unease behind her, even though she couldn't turn around to look at him. Would his promise of change wither in the face of such opposition? "Let me talk to him," she urged to the crowd, hoping they wouldn't drown out her plea, but the murmurs began anew. "Every protest has a reason," she continued, stepping toward the intruder. Her heart thudded like a drum in her chest. "We need to hear each other out." "Yeah. And what has he got to offer us that we can't do for ourselves?" The protester shot back, the anger evident in his voice. "He has resources," she said, her own frustration starting to rise, "but it's more than that. He wants to work with us. Together, we can change things, but we have to meet each other halfway. A few heads turned, and she caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd, faces that once shared in laughter, sorrow, and dreams. They were starting to listen. Taking a step closer to the protester, she softened her tone. All I'm asking is for you to give this a chance. We're all tired of feeling stuck. Right? He hesitated, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. Behind her, Jack shifted, ready to step in. Sarah could feel it building inside her, an overwhelming need to pull everyone together. Jack isn't here to patronize us or fix us. He understands struggle. Like us, he has fought through his own battles. A moment of silence fell over the room as they processed her words. Look at us. She urged, her voice rising with emotion. Maplewood needs revival. We've all been standing at the edge, waiting for help, waiting for change. Here is someone willing to invest, and if we can open our hearts, maybe, just maybe, we turn this into something greater. An elderly woman in the front row nodded. We've been waiting a long time, she whispered loud enough for others to hear. What if we could build it back up? Together? The atmosphere began to shift again, a load lifting, tension easing. Faces turned towards Sarah and Jack as they whispered among themselves. The protester's sign wavered in the air, uncertainty glinting in his eyes. Just one meeting, she implored, her heart racing as she leaned into the moment. Let us see what comes out of it. We can be the change we want to see. But we have to try together. Finally, she locked eyes with the protester. What do you say? He dropped his gaze to the floor, then looked back at Sarah, conflict flickering in his eyes. I don't know, but maybe. Across the room, Jack stepped closer. I want to hear from you. I want us to learn from each other's truths. That's what we need. At that, the crowd erupted into a mixture of applause and dissent. Some were willing to take a step forward, while others remained entrenched in their skepticism. Sarah could see it catching fire, but just as quickly, a voice rang out above the din. What if he's lying? What if this is all a trick? The walls felt like they were closing in again. As emotions churned, Sarah realized she was on the brink of something. The crowds voiced their inner turmoil, half-hearted hope battling the anxiety of long-felt neglect. Yet, within that chaos, something sparked, an opportunity was taking root. And then, from the back, another figure emerged, and Sarah's breath caught. This was exactly what she needed, and it could change everything. Let us talk more about what people really need here. Because there is something even bigger at play. What revelation awaited? The atmosphere crackled with questions, and Sarah's heart raced at the possibilities unfolding before them. The challenge had only just begun, and uncertainty loomed once more, a storm of voices rising together as they faced tomorrow. The figure moved through the crowd with purpose, the light catching the edge of sleek hair and a confident stride. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Could it really be? As the figure approached, it became clear, it was Michael, Jack's younger brother. He was the one person Sarah hadn't expected to see today. With a reputation as a troublesome millionaire, embarrassing headlines often overshadowed his generous side. Yet, in this moment, he looked determined and undeniably alive with purpose. Michael! She called out, urgency coating her voice as she stepped off the makeshift stage where she had been pleading. The crowd parted slightly, allowing him to move closer to the chaos. Listen up. His voice rose above the crowd, commanding attention. I know I'm not the most popular person here. But I want you all to hear me out. Words of disbelief rippled through the audience. Still, Sarah stood firm, backing him up, hoping his charm could cut through the growing tension. She had seen glimmers of his caring side amidst the bad press. He wasn't just about wealth, he genuinely cared about community, too. I know you all have your doubts, he continued. Believe me, I get it. I haven't always made the best choices. But the truth is, I want to help Maplewood and I'm committed to doing it the right way. The tension shifted again, inching towards curiosity. Sarah seized the moment, her heart swelling with a glimmer of hope. This was what they needed, a voice that could bridge the gap. Michael's here to listen, Sarah encouraged, glancing at him. This isn't about charity, it's about collaboration. We can create real change together. And that starts with a conversation. Exactly, he nodded, the fire sparking in his eyes. I want to hear from you, the real community leaders. The ones with stories to tell and solutions to share. But I can't do it alone. We all have to put aside our disagreements for just a moment and come together. He took a step closer to the crowd, the earnestness spilling from him. What we've always wanted, all the dreams and goals can be achieved, but it requires willingness on all sides. The crowd began to murmur again, uncertainty battling with the rising hope. Sarah watched, her breath held tight in anticipation. This was the spark, but would they climb aboard? Suddenly, a young man shouted from the back, skepticism dripping from his words. How do we know you won't pull a fast one on us like so many others? Trust is earned, Michael replied, resolve giving strength to his words. And I know that after everything, trust is the last thing you want to give away. But I am offering a chance, a partnership. Let us listen to one another. Tone softened, he added, I want you to be part of this journey every step of the way. I promise this isn't a facade. Sarah could feel the crowd's heartbeat start to sync with Michael's ultimatum. The elder woman from before spoke up again, her voice trembling but strong. If we can truly have a voice, can we put our faith in you? Yes. Michael replied, passion igniting in his spirit. We can set the conditions together. You make the demands, and I'll do my best to meet them. Your trust means the world to me. I'm here not just for Maplewood, but to wipe the slate clean for myself and for all of you. Slowly, the applause started. Some in the crowd began to sway, edging closer. Jack's eyes found Sarah's, a silent question hanging unspoken between them. Could this be real? Just as the energy shifted again, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by raised voices that hinted at more trouble. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that their plans were now teetering on the edge of chaos. What if the chance they had been offered slipped away? Stay here. Michael yelled, but fear began to creep in among the crowd. Everyone turned towards the exit, uncertainty painting their expressions. As the tension mounted, Sarah felt it too. This was more than just anger and resistance, it was a fight for survival. Could they hold it all together? Would the hope they were building shatter in an instant? The unknown loomed. And then, the doors burst open, revealing an unexpected friend, or perhaps a foe. What stood before them could change everything once more. The crowd gasped collectively, the air thick with anticipation. Standing in the doorway was Lily, Michael's ex-girlfriend. Her presence sent ripples of confusion through the gathering. She looked different, disheveled, eyes wide, and full of emotion. Sarah could see genuine fear etched on her face. Lily? Michael's voice trembled, as if he couldn't process her sudden appearance. What are you doing here? I couldn't stay away, she panted, pushing her way through the crowd, her eyes darting around as if searching for something. I sensed something was wrong. I had to warn you. Warn us about what? Sarah asked, the weight of urgency pressing down on her. Were they facing sabotage at this critical moment? There's a group outside. They're angry, they say they want to let you speak, she gasped, her voice breaking. They want to shut this down before it gets any real traction. Fear clawed at Sarah's chest. What do you mean angry? Who are they? Lily took a shaky breath, eyes meeting Michael's in a charged moment of understanding. The protesters, those affected by corporate misuse of the land and resources here. They think you're just another rich guy trying to sway the community for your benefit. Michael's posture stiffened, and for a second, he looked more like the troubled millionaire everyone viewed him as. But soon, determination flickered back in. Then let them come, he declared, voice unwavering. I won't hide. I'll face them. Michael, no. Sarah shouted, feeling panic rise as the crowd shifted uneasily. There must be another way. We can't let this turn into violence. This is a chance for dialogue, he insisted. I refuse to let their misconceptions and anger drown out our efforts. We have to be brave and stand together. If I can face them, then maybe they'll listen to your words, Sarah. A murmur rose among the crowd, a blend of acceptance and apprehension. Sarah felt her heart race. Was he really willing to risk it all? She looked into his eyes, searching for answers. They were filled with a mix of passion and fear, and it hit her this was as much about him as it was about the town. Okay, she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. But we do this the right way. Together. Michael nodded, and with a swift motion, he signaled for everyone to form a unified front. Encouraged, the crowd began to gather around him, a mix of supporters and skeptics, ready to brave the unknown. As they moved towards the entrance, Sarah's pulse thudded loudly in her ears. Would they really be able to convince the angry voices waiting outside that they could bridge the gap, or were they stepping into a storm that would drown all their hopes? Lily placed a supportive hand on Sarah's shoulder. You're making a difference, you know. Just by standing here. Or I'm about to ruin everything, Sarah whispered, anxiety threading through her. But Lily just smiled, a flicker of belief shining through the fear. The doors creaked open wider as Michael led the way. The outside noise flooded in, shouts and chants reverberated against the walls of the community center. And then, in that very moment, Sarah caught sight of what lay beyond the door, a group of determined faces, eyes set in defiance. Are they ready to fight? Or are they willing to listen? She wondered, her heart racing. As Michael stepped forward, ready to confront the unexpected wave of resistance, Sarah realized this wasn't just about Maplewood anymore. It was a fight for truth, trust, and connection that could either bind them together or tear them apart. They were all standing on the edge of something critical, and the world outside awaited their first move. In that brief silence before the storm, she wondered, could they truly carve a path through this conflict, or were they destined to fail? And just as Michael raised his voice to speak, a loudspeaker crackled to life from the crowd, relaying a warning that sent chills down Sarah's spine. Enough with the games. We want answers, not empty promises. Could they turn this tide in their favor, or was fate about to unleash chaos they couldn't control? Michael's heart raced as he gripped the microphone, his fingers trembling slightly. He took a deep breath, trying to center himself amidst the chaos. The chants grew louder, the anger palpable, a wall of emotion pressing down on him. He had to cut through that tension. Listen. He shouted, his voice echoing through the courtyard. I'm not here to play games or make empty promises. I'm here because I care, because I believe we can create something better together. The crowd responded with a mixture of skeptical murmurs and shouts. Sarah stood beside him, feeling the weight of his words. A spark of hope flickered inside her. Maybe they could find common ground if they just kept talking. People have suffered long enough, Michael continued, his voice steady. I know I'm a part of the system that has let many of you down. But I want to change that. I need your voices. Please, help me understand your experiences. What do you need? What can we do together to make this right? For a heartbeat, there was silence, as if the crowd was holding its breath. Then, a burly figure stepped forward, his face painted with anger but also strangely curiosity. You think you can just waltz in here and fix everything? You have no idea what we've been through. You're just another rich boy in a suit. Michael met his gaze, remaining calm under the tension. I get that, I really do. I've stood where you are. I grew up in a community that felt neglected. I felt the pain of watching friends and neighbors suffer because of decisions we didn't make. The man scoffed. What do you know about our lives? Our struggles? I know it's easy to feel ignored, Michael replied, stepping closer, his voice dropping to a more personal level. But I want to listen. I want to hear your stories, not just the statistics. Show me what's real. Help me see. Lily's hand tightened on Sarah's shoulder, and Sarah could feel the palpable shift in the air. The crowd hesitated, glancing at one another, their anger still simmering but the fury thawing, just slightly. There was a trace of curiosity creeping in, from the back. A woman shouted, "We want to know, what will you actually do? What guarantees can you give us?" Together, Michael reiterated, raising his arms. Let us create a plan based on everyone's needs. We can't promise we'll please everyone, but we can promise to listen. I'm willing to invest in the solutions you need not just financially, but with my time and effort. A rising voice in the crowd shouted, "You think money solves everything?" It doesn't, Michael admitted. But it can help open doors. The real work starts from here, building trust, partnership, understanding what really affects your lives every day. Sarah's heart felt lighter. Maybe this was the moment they could shift the narrative, maybe they could turn this confrontation into something more, but then she spotted a familiar face within the crowd, Jake, the outspoken leader of the protesters, and she remembered the fire he carried in his eyes. He looked ready to fight, and wouldn't he easily be swayed. Let us face it, Michael. Jake's voice boomed as he stepped forward. You want to change, but where were you when we needed support? Why should we believe anything you say now? Before Michael could respond, a buzz of tension swept through the crowd again. An electric current of uncertainty and skepticism began to rise. Maybe because, Sarah suddenly found herself saying, stepping forward to stand beside Michael. We know we can't change the past, but we can change the future together. Just give us a moment to lay it out. Let our community speak. Let us make this dialogue real. The silence held for just a moment longer before breaking, a low murmur rippled. Conversation sparked, and tentative glances were exchanged. Sarah felt her pulse quickening. Were they being heard? Could this really be the start of something new? As voices began to bounce off each other, blending anger with hope, she turned to Michael, who looked cautiously optimistic. But in the back of her mind lingered a question: were they truly getting their chance to be heard, or would this moment come crashing down under the weight of doubt? Then she noticed Jake was signaling to his group, eyes blazing with defiance. What was he planning? Would he stoke the flames of anger, or consider their plea for collaboration? The answer was just within reach, but there was a storm brewing, one that could either unite or divide them all further. What would be the outcome of this moment, and would they gather together as one, or face a split that could threaten everything they had fought for? Jake took a step forward, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. The crowd seemed to lean in, waiting for his next words. There was something electric in the air, a mix of anticipation and anxiety. All right, Jake said, lowering his tone just a touch. You want to listen? Then let us speak. But remember, we've been waiting for a long time to be heard. You better be ready to face the truth. A ripple of agreement fluttered through the crowd. Sarah glanced at Michael, whose expression had shifted from cautious to determined. This was promising, but the uncertainty lingered. A part of her worried that just as quickly as hope blossomed, it could wither. Let us hear it, Michael urged, looking straight at Jake. I'm ready. Jake motioned to a group of people at the back. One of them, a woman with tired eyes but fierce conviction, stepped forward. My name's N, she said, her voice steady despite the quiver underneath. I lost my job last year. Bills piled up. I've got 2 kids to feed. You're saying you want to listen, but all we hear are empty promises. Michael nodded, genuinely absorbing her words. And that's valid. Tell me what you need. And looked down for a moment, gathering her thoughts. We need real job opportunities. Not charity jobs that pay living wages. We don't want handouts. We want to stand on our own. As she spoke, more voices rose around her. People shared stories of struggles, broken systems, missed chances, the endless cycle of bureaucracy that seemed to strangle their initiatives. Each story layered into the collective frustration but illuminated the deep-rooted hopes no one had dared express before. Sarah felt her chest swell with emotion as she listened. These weren't just stories about hardship, they were calls for dignity, for recognition. Michael's face mirrored her feelings. There was pain, yes, but also a fierce resolve to act. A man joined in, his fists clenched at his sides. And what about our neighborhoods? We watch as big money comes in and builds fancy apartments while the streets we grew up on crumble. Where's the investment in us? Why do we get ignored? Because you matter, Michael said, raising his voice to counter the mounting tension. You deserve more than a shackled existence. I promise to take this seriously. I want to commit to investing in this community so we can rebuild together. This isn't just about money. It's about partnerships. It's about ensuring that you're the ones guiding the process. The crowd was still restless, but there was a shift. Voices started to coalesce into a mix of agreement and skepticism, challenging Michael while also stepping closer to him. Jake watched with narrowed eyes, the fire of defiance still burning within him. Words are easy, Michael. How do we know you won't just turn your back once we're done talking? Because I'm standing right here, Michael countered, vulnerability creeping into his voice. And I will work alongside you, accountable to you. I want to become part of this community, not a distant figure in an office. I know I can't change everything overnight, but let us start by listening, truly listening. The moment hung in the air, thick with possibility. There was a soft gasp from a woman in the crowd, and Sarah's heart skipped. Could this actually be happening? But just as the tide seemed to be turning, Jake stepped closer, eyeing Michael with intensity. I'm not done yet, he said, his voice low but indignant. If we decide to give you a chance, what's in it for us? How do we know you won't bail on us when things go south? Michael took a deep breath, the weight of Jake's words pressing down like a heavy anchor in a stormy sea. What would he say next? Would this moment lead to real change, or would it spiral back into distrust? Sarah held her breath, hoping that this was not just the beginning of a fight but the birth of something transformative. Could they truly build a bridge between their worlds? Or was this all going to collapse under the weight of history? The crowd waited. The storm loomed on the horizon. Would they seize this moment, or would doubt drown out their voices again? Michael locked eyes with Jake, raw determination bleeding into his voice. You want to know what's in it for you? It's simple. This isn't just about money. It's about your children, your homes, your futures. It's about creating a community where you feel safe and valued. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sarah felt the energy shift, a sense of cohesion forming like a thread weaving through their individual stories. Hope flickered in some faces, but doubt still hung heavily in the air, tethering others to their skepticism. Jake didn't flinch, his brow furrowing deeper. That's all nice and hopeful, but we've been burned before. We've seen people come and go, promising us the moon and then vanishing at the first sign of trouble. His voice rose, fueled by anger more than distrust now. We want to know you'll commit, not just for a moment, but for the long haul. Then let us build something together, Michael replied, the challenge igniting a fire in his belly. Let us create an accountability board made up of you. Real members of this community, people who can voice your concerns, track progress, and keep us all honest. And stepped forward, her voice ringing clear. What about those who don't have a voice? The elderly, the parents working 2 jobs just to scrape by. Her fierce gaze challenged them both. How can we ensure they're not left behind? A shadow passed over Michael's expression. He glanced briefly at Sarah, who offered him a small nod of encouragement. We can form a task force, he proposed after a moment, focused specifically on outreach, making sure every segment of our community is represented. But I can't do this alone. I need you to stand with me, to be engaged, to help me find and reach those voices. The crowd exchanged glances, the murmurs growing louder, a mix of curiosity and cautious optimism. But Jake, still resolute, pressed on. Talk is just talk. What if we hold you accountable? What's the actual plan? Let us start small. We can organize workshops, job fairs, partnership deals with local businesses, Michael suggested, his heart racing. We can ask people what skills they have and what they want to learn. This could be the beginnings of a mentorship program, a way to uplift one another. But what if this doesn't work? Asked another man from the back, voicing the thought that lingered in so many minds. What if we invest our time and energy, and nothing changes? A painful silence enveloped them, the weight of that question pressing down. Sarah's heart ached at the depth of fear and resignation threaded through the crowd. She wanted to bridge the gap, to let them know they could dream of more, but the doubt was palpable. Then we reassess, Michael replied firmly, cutting through the quiet. We find the areas that didn't work and we try again. We will not let setbacks stop us. This is about building trust and the strength to grow. If I walk away, I want you to hold me to it. I'll put my name on it. Your name ain't enough. Jake retorted fiercely. Let us see some actions, tangible results. Michael nodded. You want actions? Then let us mobilize for the next town meeting. Let us show them your stories. Let us show them we're ready to fight for our community. That seemed to tug at some hearts in the crowd. A young woman spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. What if we fail? Michael took a step closer to her, his voice softer now. What if we soar? The crowd fell into a reflective hush. He could see their faces' skepticism slowly melting into something softer, more hopeful. Could they push through the fear of what might come, reach for what could be beautifully possible instead? Then, with a deep breath, Sarah joined him. We've been afraid for too long. Let us choose hope. Together, we can find a way. Just as a wave of agreement began to ripple, the distant sound of sirens broke the moment, a reminder of the struggles still looming. As the crowd shifted again, Jake stood back, arms still crossed, but an inscrutable expression danced across his face. Could they trust this new path? And as the questions hung in the air, Sarah felt a spark of excitement. Maybe this was their turning point. Maybe they were finally ready to demand change. But would they unite in this newfound hope, or would the weight of the past pull them back down? The sirens faded into the background as Michael glanced around. Faces reflected uncertainty, but threads of unexpected courage began stitching them together. They stood divided on the precipice of change, so close to something new yet hesitant to take the step. Why don't we meet next week? Michael proposed, his voice cutting through the lingering tension. Let us plan this with a community gathering, a barbecue, a celebration. We could talk about what's being done, gather ideas, and reconnect. Or it could be another empty promise. Jake's voice was a whip in the air, jolting the crowd once more into a swirl of apprehension. Jake, let us be honest, and interjected with a fervor that caught them all off guard. If we don't try, we're losing out on the chance to do better. Our children deserve better. Her words were like a lifeline cast into the stormy sea of their frustrations. Michael seized this opening. That's right. Together we can create a safe space to share ideas. Let us show the skeptics, even if it's just a small gathering. We can be the spark that ignites our community. All voices matter here, especially the ones that have been overlooked. I'm tired of empty words, a burly man in the back called out with a tone full of fire. Make real changes. Yes. Sarah called back, enthusiasm enveloping her. But those changes take all of us. Let us roll up our sleeves and start with one simple step. If we don't show up and participate, we're just talking into the void. Over the murmurs of uncertainty, she scanned the faces. More than a few set their jaws, their hearts wavering, undeniably wary, but something flickered in their eyes as hope intertwined with doubt. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn that flicker into a flame. Let us not be afraid of failure, Michael urged, growing more confident. Every time we stumble, we learn. And with each lesson, we get stronger. So who's in? Who will meet with us next week and see where this journey leads? Silence. Then a hesitant hand shot up from a young father in the back. Sarah's heart leapt a little as more hands began to rise, broke free from the grip of doubt. Soon, laughter and nods exchanged among the crowd, the pulse of energy igniting into something tangible. I'll bring the grill. Someone shouted, laughter interspersing the hopeful atmosphere. Michael let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, a smile breaking across his face. That's the spirit. Let South fill this place with food, stories, and inspiration. We're not just talking about survival, this is about thriving together. As the crowd buzzed with excitement, shifts began to happen. A group of teenagers discussed music and sponsors while parents spoke of organizing potlucks and even a book exchange. They weren't just uniting over fears anymore. They were planting the seeds of action, yet, as they began to disperse, Sarah caught sight of Jake still standing there, arms crossed, indecision painted across his features. She approached him, the air between them thick with unresolved tension. Hey, she said softly, trying to break through his stoic demeanor. Are you all right? His eyes met hers, a mixture of weariness and hope. I've seen too many good intentions flop, he admitted. What makes you think this time will be different? Because we've got each other, she answered, her heart racing with sincerity. And we're ready to fight for what we believe in. We're not alone anymore. He paused, his brow furrowing, contemplating. I just don't want to be let down again. With a gentle smile, Sarah replied, none of us do. But that's the risk we take when we truly want something better. Jake's gaze shifted away, but she could see the cracks in his defenses. Maybe she had stirred something deep within him, perhaps a willingness to trust again, even just a little. Will you come next week? She asked, feeling almost vulnerable in her invitation. He hesitated, then nodded, albeit slowly. Good, she said, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. We'll make it worth it. Together. As she turned to leave, the lively chatter of the crowd faded into the background. But in that moment, all she could think about was Jake's eyes, the flicker of potential and fear mingling there. What if he chose hope? What if the whole community did? As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, a solitary question echoed through her mind. Was this the beginning of something real? And just as she stepped into the twilight, she wondered how deep could this commitment run when faced with the truth of their past. The following week buzzed with anticipation in Maplewood. The town held its collective breath, a mix of hope and anxiety hanging in the crisp air. Sarah awoke that day with a sense of purpose thrumming in her chest. Today wasn't just another day, it was the day they would gather as a community, hearts open, voices ready. As she made her way to the park, she could see townsfolk setting up tables, stringing colorful lights between branches, laughter mingling with the aroma of grilled burgers. Noah and Lily flitted around, their faces alight with excitement, as if they sensed the magic that was about to unfold. Sarah's eyes found Michael, who was already there, chatting with some neighbors, his sincerity shining through. With each passing minute, more people arrived, their hearts heavy with stories, but also filled with a flicker of that irrepressible hope. As the gathering kicked off, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped up to the makeshift stage. I'm so grateful to see all of you today, she began, her voice steady yet warm. This is about our future, about building something together. We won't all agree, but we can all be heard. Lily cheered, Noah stood proudly beside her, his earlier sadness falling away like leaves in autumn. The townsfolk clapped, the sound of unity ricocheting through the air. After a few more introductions, Michael took the stage, a gentle determination in his eyes. So, let us open the floor to everyone. Who wants to share their story? A wave of hands shot up, and soon voices rose. People spoke of hardships, loss, small victories. And shared her obstacles finding work after losing her job. A young mother spoke about sleepless nights worrying about bills. Each story resonated, creating a tapestry of their struggles interwoven with dreams. I always felt I was invisible, and said, emotion thick in her throat, but here, I feel seen. A collective murmur of agreement followed. As Michael encouraged everyone to voice their needs and dreams, the energy shifted. Your stories matter, he emphasized. We need to create opportunities that truly reflect the essence of Maplewood. The crowd buzzed with restless excitement, people leaned in closer, caught up in the whirlwind of hope sparking around them. And then, unexpectedly, Jake took the stage, his presence commanding attention. Look, I came here prepared to be skeptical, he confessed, glancing around the park at the gathering crowd, but seeing all of you, hearing your stories, it's hard not to feel something change. Silence fell as people processed his words. In that hush, Jake pushed forward, I still have my doubts about the old promises, but if we're all in this together, maybe we have a shot. Together. Echoed Sarah, a fire igniting in her. That's the key. No more just waiting, it's time we create opportunities ourselves. The crowd erupted into applause. It felt electric, like a fuse had been lit, and the darkness surrounding their past had begun to recede. They were not just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting for a future they could build together. The evening wore on, bursts of laughter filled the air, delicious food satisfied more than their hunger, and new connections formed in the warmth of the community. Michael walked cautiously along the tables, engaging in deeper conversations. With each exchange, seeds of trust took root. As the golden sun dipped beneath the horizon, Sarah felt her heart swell with pride. This was their moment. The night air buzzed with new ideas, possibilities swirling like the stars that slowly began to emerge above. This is just the beginning, Michael said, stepping beside Sarah as the soft glow of the park promoted laughter and dialogue all around. If we keep this community spirit alive, we can change everything. Absolutely, Sarah replied, looking into the faces around her. Genuine smiles, tears of relief, camaraderie forged by shared determination. We have to keep rising. As the clouds of doubt faded under the brilliance of new hope, a quiet sense of belonging swept across the gathering. They were no longer isolated individuals but an interconnected web of strength. And as laughter erupted again, Sarah silently vowed to carry this spirit forward, not just for herself and her children, but for all of Maplewood. Hope was no longer a distant star but a reality burning bright in their hearts. Together, they were ready to take on the challenges ahead, fighting not as separate pieces but as a united community. And with that unyielding connection, they stepped into the dawn of their newfound future. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more people. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can create waves of change.